Thanks everybody for joining this meeting today. I appreciate it. So we are going to go over charting templates and referrals. We will show you how to write a chart note, sign and share, co-sign, how to co-sign pretty easily. I'll talk about encounter settings as well and referrals. And then just the rest of these slides, 4, 5, 6, and 7 are all the same exact co-signing and etc. And then you can see 9 says encounter settings. So I'm not going to go over every single slide and bore you to death. I will touch up on referrals, like I mentioned before, showing you how to set those up. One of the questions I was asked was like, how do I add my signature into a referral? I'll make sure that I remember to show you that. So I'm going to go over the charting process, and I will not be as fast as I'm talking right now. And the way I'm going to put this together is almost in a real scenario. So let's put a patient in Charm EHR. Let's schedule them for an appointment. And after we schedule them for an appointment, we're going to send them an intake form. This intake form is just going to be called Charm questionnaire. We're going to send that form. And when we send that form, we're going to send it to the patient's personal health record, their personal PHR or PHI, whatever terminology you prefer. They're going to fill out that intake form electronically from their personal health record. And then I'm also going to show you how details auto-populate from the questionnaire into your patient's chart and also into your patient's encounter note when you go to start that encounter that you scheduled from the Charm calendar screen. Within the encounter note, I'll show you how the information auto-populates, like I mentioned before, but also to show you how to scroll through the encounter note, as well as setting up a referral. And, let's say if we need to write a prescription, order a lab, and some other orders that we need to put into Charm EHR. After that, I'll create a referral and we can touch up on some questions that you have later on. So I'm also going to touch up on quick text, like mentioned before. So you know how to set up your smart phrases so they populate automatically. So let's just put this all together. I'm going to schedule an appointment in Charm EHR. I'm going to talk about the template that I'm using for this consultation. I'm going to talk about the intake form that I'm going to send out to the patient. I'm going to show you the patient's personal health record, and I'm going to go into an encounter note and show you how this information auto-populates. All right, so I'm going to go into Charm. So I'm going to go back here. So I'm in Charm EHR. This is my home screen. I'm not a part of the tutorial, but just keep in mind, your home screen looks a little bit different than mine, and you wish that you could rearrange these tabs in the order that they're given, you can do that in Charm. You can customize your home screen. You can also customize the patient's chart. Any type of customization when it comes to your home screen or the patient's chart, just go to any random patient when you click on search patient bar right over here, click on their name, and then go straight into a dashboard. It doesn't matter what patient it is, just go to a patient's chart. At the very bottom left, you'll see a button that says customize. That very left-hand side has to do with customizing your home screen. The second left-hand side has to do with customizing the patient's chart. Just real quick, click on this more button at the very bottom left, select customize, and customize your home screen. You might have a specific role within the practice where you don't do, let's say you don't schedule patients or you don't set up referrals. You may not even need to have those actually be displayed on your home screen. And the same is true for the patient's chart. You would probably prefer dashboard to be first because that always brings up their face sheet and their timeline. You can change everything else around. Let's say you want vitals to be second. Maybe you turn off vaccines because you don't administer a vaccination. Okay, so where I'm going to go next is I'm going to go into the settings of Charm EHR, and I'm going to take my way back home and just talk about how you can get around Charm EHR just a little bit faster. Charm has all of these keyboard shortcuts. Some of them are intuitive. One that has to do with H for home, another that has to do with S for settings, and some other keyboard shortcuts they require you to press Z and then the letter C for calendar, the letter P for patient list, etc. To familiarize yourself with all these keyboard shortcuts, look to the bottom right of your screen, click on the question mark, and select the button that says keyboard shortcut. This is how you can get it around Charm EHR just a little bit faster.
All right, so I'm going to put an appointment in Charm EHR. It's going to be for this patient named Trent. I'm going to put in my calendar. I'm going to sign him an intake form. I want this patient to fill out electronically from their personal health record. Then I'm going to use that appointment for an encounter and show you how this information auto-populates. So I'm going to go into my calendar right over here to put an appointment in Charm EHR. All right, so I'm going to put an appointment in just in my day view. Hopefully that speeds up just a little bit. Okay, look okay on that. I'm going to put him in at 12:30. The patient that I use consistently, their name is Trent. So I'm going to put Trent in there. The field that says department, don't worry about that. That's just something that we've enabled in this Charm account. I'm going to put him in for a consultation. On the right-hand side, these are all intake forms that I either customized in Charm EHR or that I had grabbed from the Charm EHR library. The form that I'm using is called Charm. So just a moment, I'm going to bring it up just by doing a quick function search. Just a second, real quick. There it is right here. Go. All right, the appointment mode, I'll keep it as a video consult. I'll leave out the reason and message to patient. I'm just going to click on confirm for this appointment. So when I put an appointment in Charm EHR, I'm going to use that appointment for an encounter. There it is from 12:30 to 1:45. I'm going to go into my list view. You're going to see that appointment that I just put in my Charm EHR, 12:30 to 1:45. The way I have my Charm questionnaire set up is that there's a lot of details that are going to auto-populate from the questionnaire into the patient's encounter note. I'm going to touch on that right now. So I'm going to go into my settings right over here at the top right, or just press S on your keyboard. That will take you into your settings. As I'm going into my settings, I'm going to show you my questionnaire and I'm going to show you my template. I'm going to put it together for you to understand how this information auto-populates from the questionnaire into your patient's encounter note. So first show you how this is possible. I'm going to go into templates right over here at the top right. All right, the template that I'm using is called Charm. So I'm just going to do a quick search, Charm exam. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open it up for you so you have an understanding what is built inside of this intake form. I'm going to click on edit, this consultation note. I'm going to click on edit. You can see it has history of present illness, as you see right here. It has past medical history. It has family history. It has social history, etc. Like I can keep scrolling through and I can show you all these details that are included in each part of this consult note. All right. With that thinking, now I'm going to show you how it's possible to have those specific details be filled out by a patient from their intake form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll my way back into questionnaires, which is clicking on this back button right over here. And questionnaires for me is going to be on the left-hand side. I'm going to click on practice questionnaires just to take me directly where I need to go. All right, the questionnaire that I had customized before this meeting is called Charm questionnaire. I'm going to open this questionnaire up by clicking on edit. Okay, I customized this form by adding up personal details, primary contact details, primary insurance details. And you can see it says history of present illness, past medical history, family history, social history. You can see that there's not a lot of details. You don't see any questions being built inside of these. The reason why that is because each one of these is called a widget. When you go to customize your questionnaires in Charm EHR, or let's say you've been using Charm and now you want to update them for the information that can now auto-populate, click on add items right over here at the top right and click on where it says question, and you'll see all the listed widgets that you can choose from. The reason why I had you look at my template within Charm and just do a quick search of like, oh, the history of present illness questions, the social history questions, the past medical history questions, those type of widgets is because you can take those questions that are built into that SOAP note and you can apply it into this intake form. So for instance, I want to get the patient's family history ahead of time by having them answer it from the questionnaire and then having it auto-populate into my intake form. Well, how would I have that done? Well, I have a widget that's called family history. So I click on family history and then it says choose template. When I click on choose template, I'll see the template that I have made in Charm EHR called Charm exam. And when I click on that, what that's telling me is that it's going to take the family history section of the template that I have in Charm EHR, and it's going to apply it into this intake form for patients to fill out from their personal health record. That's exactly how this works. So let's say you want to get their social history. So you click on social history and it says choose template. You'll find the SOAP note that you've customized in Charm EHR. Click on the SOAP note. It's pulling the social history from the SOAP note into this intake form for the patient to fill out from their questionnaire. when you go to customize your templates in Charm EHR, you may notice that I'm not able to pull in any of these widgets that James is talking about. Why is that? The only reason why is because when you customize your soap notes in Charm, they're made as my templates, which means that no one else besides yourself can use that template. And that also further means that no patient would be able to answer those questions because they're private. You need to share your template, your soap note, to the practice templates, and then they become available to use as widgets within your intake form. So again, so you'll go to templates right over here at the top right. And then we'll go to that Charm exam form that I just had in Charm. So Charm exam. You'll click on this action button right here, and you're going to select the button that says share. Share it to the practice, and then click on share. Once it's been shared to the practice, then you can apply it to the intake form that you're customizing in Charm. And so let's just put this all together. I've got a Charm exam form. I've got a Charm questionnaire. I've sent it to a patient to fill out from their personal health record. So I'm going to go back to my tab that says calendar right here. So this is Trent, the 12:30 that we had scheduled. You weren't able to hear me very well in that microphone. I click on questionnaire. You can see no data has been filled out yet. So I'm going to reshare my screen, but we're going to look at my other monitor that's going to display the patient's personal health record. So right now you're looking at a patient's personal health record. And the patient has an appointment with the Dr. Antonio at 12:30. So they're going to click on appointments right over here. There's the appointment that I had just scheduled in Charm EHR. I click on questionnaire. Let me just enlarge this window for you a little bit. Questionnaire. That's the Charm questionnaire that I had customized in Charm. I click on the questionnaire, and then it populates inside the window right here. And as I scroll through, you start seeing those widgets that I showed while I was customized in that intake form. It went personal details, primary contact details. These are all widgets that auto-populate directly into the patient's chart. So what brings you in here today? Let's say mood, issues, etc. How you feeling? Neutral. Any past medical histories? None. Let's say I have depression. I'll start answering some of these questions. Family medical history, no family medical history, family, etc. Let's say seizures. I'll just start answering some of these questions as if I'm a patient. I won't put any allergies or medications because that might take a little bit. And let's also date and sign this form as far as us being a patient. The next thing the patient will do is click on submit. So me as a patient, I filled out your intake form for my personal health record. Now let's go back into Charm EHR. So you're not going to see my screen again. All right. So me as a patient, I filled out the intake form from the personal health record. The provider had customized the template in Charm EHR, and they kept record of the type of questions that are being asked. And then they apply them as widgets inside the questionnaire. The patient filled out the questionnaire that had those widgets, and the information is now going to auto-populate. So how do you put this all together now? Now, as the provider, I'm going to start the encounter note in Charm. There's many ways for you to start the encounter note in Charm. I'll pretend that we're just logging into Charm for the first time, and I'll just give you a couple scenarios to start an encounter note in Charm. Some providers just know right off the top of their head that they have an appointment coming at 12:30 with this patient named Trent. And so what they do is they just do E+ on their screen. They write the patient's name in at the top, press enter. And then what they'll do next is click on no, I'm doing a new encounter. And there's that 12:30 that we have scheduled on our calendar. That was a keyboard shortcut, E+. Another option that some providers will do is they'll say, okay, when is the appointment? And I need to catch up to this patient and see what's been going on with them. So what I do is I click on calendar, or I do ZC on my screen, on my keyboard, excuse me, and it takes me directly to my calendar of Charm EHR. My list view will list all the appointments that I have scheduled for today. There's Trent, 12:30. I need to catch up to the patient, see what's been going on. But did they fill out my intake form? Questionnaire? Ah, they did. They filled out my intake form. I'm going to catch up to the patient, see what's been going on. I'm going to click on the patient's name. When you go into a patient's chart, there's many different ways for you to start the encounter note from the patient's chart. You can use the keyboard shortcut called E+, or you can click on the plus button at the very top right and then select encounter. If you need to look at the encounters over time before you start the note, click on encounters on the patient's toolbar on the left-hand side. You can see all the encounters you've done with that patient. Click on either one of them. You'll see the toggle options pointing to left and right. My mouse is going left to right over here. When you're ready to start the encounter, click on the plus encounter button right over here at the top right. And then when you go to click on a new encounter, you're going to do new encounter. And there's that 12:30 that you have scheduled in Charm. One other thing about the patient's chart, if you go into dashboard, you just need to see what you've done with that patient over a year, month, and day. Maybe you want to see the intake form, the lab orders, the lab results, the medications that you've written. Go to timeline. Timeline shows you everything that you've done with that patient over a year, month, and day. And what's blue is a hyperlink for you to click on. This is the intake form the patient had filled out from their personal health record. And I can see what answers that they had given. Okay, I'm ready to start the note with this patient. I'm going to click on the plus button at the top right, just for this example. Click on encounter. We're going to do a new encounter note. I'm going to keep it as at 12:30. And I am using a SOAP note. What I do next to start the encounter is I click on create. But you may be thinking in your head, like, well, how come this was defaultly selected as SOAP note? Also, why do I need to have quick, brief, or comprehensive as a choice when it could just be SOAP note automatically? That leads into what the where we're supposed to talk about, which is your encounter settings. So I'm going to touch on that just real quick before I start this note. What you do within your encounter settings is where you go to add your signature, is where you go to set up your preferences as far as your member chart note preferences, where you go to set up your unlock option for your signed note, where you like to have the weight and height copy from the previous note. It's probably maybe the third most important settings that you should be touching on. Go to settings right over here at the top right. If you're the practice admin of the account, encounter summary settings is going to be a little bit further down in the window, but a little bit middle portion right over here, and go directly to preferences. When you click on preferences, you're going to see those options that I just mentioned. Unlock option for signed chart note is the first one. If you need the weight and height copy from the previous note, click on yes for both of these. Do you want the recorded vitals that you put inside the patient's chart populate into your encounter note? That's exactly what this means. Lab results, vitals as part of the chart. Maybe you don't record vitals, turn those off. But when you scroll down, you're going to start noticing member chart note preferences. I may never use a quick, brief, or comprehensive note because I have my own customized SOAP note. So I might as well have that defaultly pop up every time I go to use my Charm note, Charm exam. Press enter. Now, every time I start an encounter note in Charm EHR, Charm exam SOAP note is going to be pre-selected for me. Also, your SOAP sections. You may not administer vaccinations as a practice, or you may. Maybe you don't perform injections or vaccines or supplements. Go ahead and turn those off. They won't be displayed inside your encounter note. And also play around with the 360 view for your encounter SOAP experience. I am going to turn that on for my Charm EHR just so you can see what it looks like. It's going to be a 3-panel view. The first panel is going to have to do with the patient's chart. The second panel is going to give you a view of the patient's questionnaires, lab records, documents, and the third panel is going to have to do with the patient's encounter note. I'm going to click on save to make those changes. And also, if you need to set up an auto cosigner, this is where you go to do that. Click on plus cosigner, choose the facility member that you've added in Charm EHR as your cosigner. And also check up on your display diagnosis name. You may see it as selected as SNOMED because you might be your first account user for Charm. If that's not necessary, change it to ICD-10 and click on save. Okay, your signature. Your signature is right over here. A lot of practices that sign up for Charm EHR sometimes forget to put their signature in Charm and to have their signature to be included on certain documents in Charm. Also, your visit summary. When you sign off on an encounter note in Charm EHR, the patient gets a visit summary displayed directly to their personal health record. What options from the visit summary do you want to have shared with the patient? Pick and choose what part more or less from the encounter note, or maybe no visit summary. And then if you don't see the vitals to choose from when you're inputting vitals of your patient, you can customize your own vitals in Charm as well. All right, I'm gonna go back to my calendar in Charm EHR and start the encounter with that patient named Trent. You're gonna see the changes that I had made in my Charm EHR account. So here's Trent. There's that 12:30 to 1:45 I talked about multiple times. I'm going to click on start this encounter from the calendar screen. And you can see that it no longer gives me an option to choose quick, brief, or comprehensive. In fact, SOAP note is my default selection, and my Charm exam SOAP note is going to defaultly pop up for me by clicking on create. When I open this note, you're going to see some pre-selections or pre-positives or pre-negatives or default values, as Charm puts it. This is the 360 view that I was talking about with your SOAP note. Right over here on the left-hand side, this all has to do with the patient's chart. Sometimes the patient tells you that they took a medication or they're currently taking a medication. This is where you can just add that right over here. Maybe the patient tells you that they had a diagnosis some odd days and it's still continuous, but you want to add that diagnosis, but not as an active diagnosis inside the encounter note. That's why this view exists. The middle pane, if you click on the arrow, the 3 lines and the arrow pointing to the right, this is where you can review the last encounter note that you had signed in Charm EHR. The repeat chart note, that's where you can repeat the last signed note into your new encounter. You can look at other dates as well. If you haven't seen the patient yet, it just brings up their face sheet. And then you have the tabs above right over here. This right here has to do with the flow sheet. I'll talk about flow sheet in probably about 5 minutes, but I'll get into it a little bit. Flow sheet is a really easy way for you to check in the patient. You can get their vitals. You can input the scores to their intake forms. You can have them answer basic questions about how their mood is, etc., how their pain medication, their treatment plan has been, maybe what's upcoming for their new exercises. You can really utilize flow sheet to keep track of a bunch of data about your patients. A lot of demonstrations I've been doing, they have a lot of questionnaires that have scores behind them. And what I like to do is create a customize a flow sheet that keeps track of their scores over time, like PHQ-9s, GAD-7s. I have to manually input the score, but it keeps track of them over time. And I have the little graph button that I can trend those scores over time. Lab results is right over here. You can compare your labs by clicking on the compare button at the top right. Image results, documents if you imported into Charm EHR or that you needed to compare, and then the questionnaire that the patient had filled out. So just as kind of bringing it back, this patient filled out an intake form from their personal health record. I had talked about that there was details that auto-populate from the patient's questionnaire into your patient's encounter note and the chart. Those details are that are auto-populating, those are called widgets. And the widgets are personal details, primary contact details, primary insurance details, allergies, medications, supplements. Those populate from the questionnaire into your patient's chart. You can also have information auto-populate into the patient's encounter note, chief complaints, history of present illness, past, family, social history, review of systems, and symptoms. And as you scroll through, you'll be able to review the questionnaire the patient had filled out. And what you're going to do next is you're going to click on the reconcile button at the very top right. It tells you that you have 4 items that you need to reconcile. Click on reconcile. You're just going to review how the information is being displayed. They have all their allergies, their medications that they're currently taking. I'll keep scrolling through. There's a lot of information about this patient that I've inputted over time, but we're going to get into the part of the social history and family history if I keep scrolling through the rest of this. Just a second. Here we go. History of present illness, past medical history that they put in, any family history that they had inputted as well. The next thing I do is I click on the add all button. So it adds all of them at once. I click on preview to see how it gets previewed. I'm going to click on the button that says save instead of repeating all these medications. I'm going to click on save. And then the next thing that I need to do is I can see this displayed into my encounter note. So these 3 lines and the arrow pointing to left, I'll click on it and bring up my entire encounter. So you can see that the history of present illness has populated directly in here where it says new. That's the answer that I had given from the personal health record. They're how they feel today, neutral. They told us that they don't have any past medical history issues, etc. History of abuse, sexual, as you see right here, sexual orientation, not sexually active, etc. And now you're seeing how that information auto-populated from the questionnaire into your patient's chart. The next thing I'm going to do just real quick is talk about flow sheet, your quick text, and also your default values. So I made mention of flow sheet. So I'm going to bring it up right over here in this window. I'm going to click on this little tab right here that says flow sheet. And I click on one of my flow sheets and you can see that, oh, I have a flow sheet that has to do with memory loss. I have a personal goals flow sheet. I also have a Q scores flow sheet. Maybe I also have standard questions as well. I like to ask my patients about stress and sleep and how do they feel. How do you customize a flow sheet? How do you customize your quick text? And how do you customize your default values? If you're unfamiliar with quick text, you might have used Epic in the past. They have theirs called dot phrases. Ours are called quick text. The way to utilize quick text is you click on the window, you press period to initiate the quick text, and then whatever keyword that you would customize in Charm EHR, start writing it in, and then press enter, and it populates that description. Default values, those are setting up pre-positives, pre-negatives, or just having pre-selections within your encounter note. So let's go there. I'm going to click on settings right over here at the top right to take me where I can customize my flow sheet, my default values, and also my quick text. So just because we're already here, quick text, just scroll down in the middle of the screen. It'll be a little bit further down in your settings. Click on quick text. If you're a new Charm user, you don't see anything available. You have to customize your own quick text. Keep in mind, your quick text is not shared among other facility members. It's your own quick text of Charm. What you do next, click on where it says plus quick text at the top right, and then put in a simple keyword for you to remember. Like a lot of times you may have to remind yourself to call the patient about a treatment plan, or you may ask a facility member of yours to call the patient to ask how their medication has been treating them. It's really annoying to have to keep writing the same thing over and over again. So a good quick text for you might be CP, and then it has to do says just call patient. Or maybe you need to be more descriptive than that. CPN, call patient to talk about their medication treatment or something like that. And then what you do next is you click on add, then all those quick texts will start populating in this window. It's a maximum of 3,000 characters. So it can be a lengthy quick text that can populate. So anything that you write on a pretty consistent basis, create a keyword that you can remember pretty easily. And then that description will populate when you go to write your encounter notes, when you go to send messages to patients, when you go to assign tasks to team members. And just one thing before I leave again, I'm just going to remind you, this is your quick text. It's not shared among other facility members. Okay, so how do you utilize default values? So I'm going to back out of quick text. It's going to bring me back to my regular settings in Charm. Your default values, click on templates right over here at the top right. One of the questions that was asked for this slash training tutorial was, oh, how do I set up hierarchical functions in Charm EHR? What they mean by that type of question is, oh, when I click on one option, I need a couple options to display right below that option. And then when I select that other option, I want to have continuously other options to choose from. So it's a hierarchical purpose of selection. I'm going to talk about that and also just kind of move that into default values at the same time. I'm going to create a history present illness template, and it's just going to ask about the patient's headaches. So I'm going to click on plus new template at the top right. We're going to change this to history present illness, or just whatever I see in front of me. And we're going to click on proceed. Now it's a history present illness template that I'm customizing in Charm. What I need to do next is click and drag inside of this window. So let's say I'm asking a patient about headaches. So I'll drag in a multi-choice. And just to keep it short, I'm just going to do HA for headaches. And the first thing I want to know is, okay, do you have headaches or not? So let's say yes and no. And let's say they say yes to headaches. Well, I want to have options underneath yes to choose from. How do I customize that? Press enter to create a space in between yes or no. The next thing that you're going to do, you're going to use 2 arrows for each additional option that you would have a choice of. Arrow, 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 arrow. Let's say there's 3 options. And in this scenario, I want to know where do they experience the headaches mostly? Is it on the left side of their head, the right side, or is it B for bilaterally? Besides it being left, right, and bilaterally, maybe I want to know also what type of symptoms are with these headaches. I press enter. I'll do 4 arrows for each option to have an option after clicking on left. And let's say this has to do with just symptoms that they display. So I'll do blurry, I'll do tunnel, and I'll also do blinding. Okay, let's say it's none of those options that they told me, so I'll include an others option. You will not see this displayed when you click on OK. It will be there in your encounter note. And let's also say, okay, if I do select one of these options, I want a comments box. Again, you won't see that here, but you'll see that in your encounter note as a comments box where you can write in any comment you need to, and then click on OK. So I ask the patient, do you have headaches? And they say yes. Then I ask them, okay, where do you experience this? On the left side, right side, all? They say left. And then I also ask them, okay, what type of pain is associated with this headache? And they tell me it's blurry vision. Now, the way this will be displayed, it will say headaches, and it'll have a line that says yes. I have another line that says L for left, and I have another line that will say blurry for their symptoms. If you need to just remind yourself of how to customize these hierarchical purposes, drag in either single choice, multi-choice, or checklist. Either one of those will tell you how to customize it. So if I drag in checklist and I click on help, it shows you exactly how to customize these hierarchical purposes. So you click on radiation pain, arm and leg will populate down below because you have the 2 arrows. If you click on arm, right, left, and bilaterally will populate below because of those 4 arrows underneath those 2 arrows. And when you're customizing your soap notes in Charm EHR, whenever you click on save, you're going to get a box that's going to pop up in the middle of your name. Let me just name this real quick. You click on save, you'll get a box that pops up in the middle of your screen when you're customizing soap notes in Charm. Because when you customize soap notes in Charm, you're able to set up default values. So let's say that I have a wellness check. So I look for my wellness check soap note. Here it is, wellness exam. And I click on this action button right here, and I select default values. It's going to open my note up for me. And when I ask about their history of present illness, a lot of the times, like surgeries is no. Like it's very rare that some of these patients that I deal with have surgery. So I just want that to be pre-selected for no, because it's annoying for me to click on no every time. Just select no. Whenever you go to start this encounter note in Charm EHR, no is going to be pre-selected for you. And if you keep scrolling through, like let's say you say no right here. Let's say you have a normal right above visual or something like that. You can click on normal, 2010, let's say. And all of these selections will be pre-selected for you. And then click on save. And then you've made your customizations default values. Then when you go to start the encounter note in Charm EHR, those default values will be pre-selected for you. Here's another thing about your soap note that doesn't really get talked about enough, but you can have the medical history populate into your soap note automatically when you start that encounter with the patient. The way this happens, let's say you're going to customize a soap note in Charm. Click on plus new template. Keep it as a soap. Click on proceed. I want their family history, their past medical history, their social history. Click on add. When I scroll down to, let's say, their family medical history, when I drag in a note box, I can actually just display any notes I want in right here. And I can repeat the note and it'll populate into their family history. Same thing for soap notes. If I drag in notes right over here, same thing. And let's go into their past medical history. And as you see right here, you can see there's an additional option. Patient, select field. For their past medical history, what this means is that I want their medic allergies to populate in here into that note. Paste. I also want their medications. I want their supplements. I want their diagnosis. I want their immunizations. All you do is you copy the placeholder right here, And then so we copy it just real quick. And then click in the box right here and then paste it. That will populate all those choices that I had right over here into that section of their past medical history. That could save yourself a bunch of time. When you start the encounter note, the past medical history is auto-populated for you. Okay. So the next thing that we have to talk about is flow sheets. And then after flow sheets, I'm going to touch up on referrals. All right, so I'm backing out just to my regular settings in Charm. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to show you exactly what the flow sheet looks like when you go to use it in Charm EHR. So let's just go to a patient's chart right over here by clicking on their name. All right, so when I go to dashboard, it takes me directly to their face sheet and I see a choice for flow sheet. I click on flow sheet and I'm able to choose a whole slew of flow sheets to choose from for this patient. I can click on Q scores and you can see the scores that I can input. If I change it to, let's say, check-in, I can see that I can put in details for their check-in. It's got to populate all of their vitals that I've inputted in the past for this patient: height, weight, BMI, how their mood is, etc. Maybe I want to create a flow sheet in Charm EHR where I can input the scores from their questionnaires, their weight, their height, their BMI, their mood, and also how their pain medication is treating them or medication as a whole from a rating scale. How would you do that in Charm EHR? So I'm going to go right back to my tab that says settings. And then I'm going to click on where it says flow sheets right over here. I have a lot of flow sheets that I've customized in the past. What I'm going to do, you're probably not going to see anything available. So click on the button that says plus flow sheet. Go ahead and name it. Maybe you call it something real simple, check-in process or something like that. The next thing you're going to do, you're going to use these components on the left-hand side, like customizing templates in Charm, by clicking and dragging into the open box. Heading, what that is just heading where you are within the flow sheet, some type of reminder, whatever. Instructions, what that is, well, it opens a Pandora's box where I have to talk about what instructions are used for. Patients can fill out flow sheets from their personal health record. Just keep that in mind. The reason why you would ever have a patient fill out a flow sheet from their personal health record might have to do with them updating symptoms that they have with you, or maybe a diet regimen that you're having them follow. So instructions would be just how would you telling the patient how to fill out the flow sheet or how often you need them to fill out the flow sheet. That's what instructions are for. The patient fills out the flow sheet from their personal health record. They go into their PHR, they literally click on flow sheet, they'll click on a button that says add entries, and then they can fill out the flow sheet from their PHR, which will then populate into their chart for you. But instructions is just telling the patient how to fill out the flow sheet mostly. The next thing, vitals. When you pull in vitals, you'll see all the customized vitals that you put in Charm EHR. If you haven't customized your own vitals, you'll see weight and height and BMI to choose from. All these other ones that you see in front of you are vitals that I've customized in the past in Charm EHR. They have their own numerical value of how we keep track of them. I'm going to keep it real simple. I just want height, weight, and BMI. And then the next thing that I do is I click on OK. Okay, the next thing, labs. Labs takes a little bit explanation to show you how it works. But basically, if you have a panel of labs that you consistently order for, let's say, your new consult patients, well, you can have the results that you either import into Charm EHR and their parameters are inputted, or if you have interfacing with like Quest or LabCorp, those results auto-populate into your Charm EHR. Well, the results can also populate into your flow sheet. So let's say you usually order a blood for a patient and you start seeing choices to choose from of the type of orders when it comes to blood. Or maybe a urine test and you start writing urine, you'll find urine tests that you can click on. The next thing you do is you just click on OK. What that means is that when you order the lab for the patient and the test gets done, and either you manually inputted the results in Charm EHR or the results had been, let's say, through a bidirectional interface populated into your Charm, those results will populate into your flow sheet for you. They'll still be viewable within your lab records section. You can trend them over time, but you just want to see the result right then and there. That's how you can make this work. And then the next thing is custom parameters. Custom parameters give you a lot of flexibility as far as what type of details you're trying to keep track of your patients. Like I mentioned mood quite a bit of time, so I'll do mood. And I just want to know, are you happy, sad, just neutral, depressed, whatever. I just want to choose that selection. So I click on type and then it gives me choices. Number could be used for just like a number of a questionnaire score or something that, you ask them to rate from their mood from 1 to 10 if you don't want to use a rating scale. Single line text just gives you a text to write in whatever you need to. Multi-line text is just a bigger text box for you to write in. Rating scale looks like this, and it goes from 1 to what it is, and then click on OK. I'll drag in another custom parameter, do the exact same thing for mood. And then you're also going to get single choice and multi-choice option. Single choice, exactly what it sounds like. Whatever choices you put in here, so I'll do sad, I'll do happy, just as quick examples. And then how you want it displayed, radio or combo, play with those, see how they look for you. And an additional note box for you to write in additional notes, and then click on OK. And then they're just choices for you to choose from. And then drag in one more time for a custom parameter, and you can see other choices. A date, so a date of when an exercise was performed, a date and time when the exercise was performed, at exact what time. Those are details that you can keep track of within the flow sheet. The next important part about your flow sheet is just how you want that data to be displayed. If you prefer to where the data from the very last time you've inputted that flow sheet to populate in front of you, do descending instead of ascending. It's hard to go through ascending because then you're looking at the very first time you've inputted data for the flow sheet, and you have to scroll all the way to the right to see the very last time you've inputted it. Date format just matters if you need time to be involved. Data row is usually the best way to look at flow sheets. And then where it says apply this flow sheet to all patients, basically what that means is that if I click on apply to flow sheet to all patients, that means every single one of my patients in Charm EHR, I can fill out this flow sheet within their chart. If it's not chosen, what that means is that when I go to the flow sheet section of the patient's chart, which I think I can quickly do for you guys. When I go into the patient's flow sheet section of their chart, I have to click on the plus button at the top right, and I have to select the flow sheet that I want to start utilizing within this patient's chart. That's exactly what that means. Go back to settings. And then the next thing is to share this flow sheet. So it says share this flow sheet with all patients. And basically what that means is that patients can fill out the flow sheet from their personal health record from then on, and then click on save. And that's how you can customize a flow sheet in Charm EHR, by using custom parameters, having lab results populate directly into the flow sheet, customizing your vitals, and then just inputting vitals inside of a flow sheet for a quick check-in process, instructions for patients of how to follow within the flow sheet, and then a heading of where you are within the flow sheet itself. I'm going to click on cancel because I don't need to save this flow sheet. And I'm going to back out. So this is part 2. And part 2, I was not really, I should really touch up on referrals, because this might open your eyes a little bit to what's possible when it comes to referrals. When you go to write a referral in Charm EHR, you have a tab that says referrals. You can click on referrals. It's going to bring up a referral window for you. The next thing, it's just showing the referrals that you've sent out. That's exactly where it is. You need to send another referral out to, let's say, a referring provider. Click on plus referral at the top right. You'll see that you have to put the patient's name in right over here. The directory where it says search, this is pulling from your settings and directory. So if I start writing in a provider's name, a referring provider's name, I press enter, it populates for me. When you start writing something and you don't see anything populating, just click on add new, and you can add that referring provider. It'll save in your directory from then on. The next thing that you'll notice, you have to put in referral reason, the referral date, the priority level, and if it's related to an encounter. And this is where it gets really nitty gritty in a way. If you select any of these related to an encounter, then what's going to really matter is the type of template you decide to import into this referral note. And I'm going to talk about that. Sometimes what you might be doing is selecting the referring encounter, and then you're having to write the entire referral letter just like this. That's very time consuming, I bet. And then you have the attachments that you can bring in, the patient's insurance and the diagnosis. All right, so first, how do I have it where if I select a related encounter, I have details from the related encounter populate directly into my referral note? And I'm going to show you exactly. So when I click on templates right over here, and I have mine called therapist referral. So just a moment, I'm going to click on it. I'm going to select the button that says okay. It's going to take a couple of seconds for this all to populate into the window. There might be a lot of medication treatments or something like that. But while we're waiting for this, what's happening is that I went into my settings, I went into templates, I clicked on reports. And when I clicked on reports, I told Charm that I want current medications, family medical history to populate in there, their marital status, etc. All to populate from the encounter note directly into my referral letter. I also have patient follow-up instructions, just the patient's name, their date of birth, their phone number, their address, etc. And also with appreciation, my name, signature, and also the email address to contact me with. How was this all possible? And how can you save time by just having this, by clicking on the template and populating it directly into a referral note? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to our settings again. And if you're not familiar with Macs, just do Command 3 to go to one of your tabs, or Command 2 or Command 1 without doing a bunch of clicks. This is all referring to your browser tabs. So you want to create a report in Charm EHR that has to do with referrals, and it populates details from the patient's chart or from the encounter note directly into a referral letter. What you're going to do, go to where it says templates right over here at the top right. The next thing to do is you most likely don't have a report customized in Charm. And it's a little bit long-winded to go into our library, change it to reports, and see what reports are available for you to choose from. It might be just way easier just to customize your own. Click on plus new template. Next thing you're going to do, scroll to where you find it says reports. Reports, if I remember correctly, is I think on the first column. It's the second column right over here. Looks like it's about the 8th or 9th one down. Click on reports, then select proceed. Whenever you're testing Charm EHR, just call it test. It's easier to remember the template name. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to use what we call placeholders, paste it into here, into the body of this referral letter, and it's going to populate information from the patient's chart, from the encounter note, from your own information into here. So I'll give you an example. At the first beginning of this referral letter, I'm just going to say, here, I want the referring provider's name to populate right into the window. Select referring provider, name, copy, paste. That's going to populate the referring provider's name that I've associated with my directory. So when I'm sending out this referral, I had to select who the referring provider is. The provider name populates in here. Dear referring provider, I had the pleasure of seeing patient's name. I don't want to have to write patient's name every single time. Change the group to patient, field, name, copy it, paste. Some referral letters that I've noticed are pretty short. You may want to have the medications that you had written inside the encounter note populate into your referral letter. Okay, how do you do that? Click on group again, change it to encounter. Field, medications or prescriptions is how they're named. Prescriptions, copy. In this case, put a subject above it, put a header above it. Call this medications, so they know exactly what this is. Paste. Maybe you want to also display their social history. Encounter again, prescriptions, but instead we look for social history, medical history, whatever you want to choose. I'm not seeing this in front of me. I'll just do family and social history. Copy, paste. And the last thing, you can see that you can pull in types, details from your encounter note. You can also pull in details from the patient's chart. Click in here and also from the patient's chart. Primary care physician, referring providers, in-house care team, your address, family and social, their address, excuse me, their date of birth, record ID. I just really recommend always put a header above the detail that you're populating here, so the referring provider knows exactly what that information means. Because if you start putting like a date in there and it's supposed to be the patient's date of birth, they're not going to know what exactly that means. So just do DOB and then change this to from patient, choose date of birth, copy, paste. one of the questions I was asked is like, how do I get my signature involved into these referral letters? Easy. Change the group to provider, choose field, select signature, copy it. And then, okay, so you have your, let's say you do sincerely or with appreciation, etc. Paste it. And then maybe you also want your email to be displayed as well. Copy, email. Once you customize the referral template that you're making in Charm EHR, click on create. Then when you're going to write a referral in Charm EHR, so I'll go back to my referral tab right over here. We'll click on cancel, just pretending that we're making a new referral. Click on plus referral out. Patient's name first. If it's related to an encounter, so it pulls information from the encounter, I'll choose somebody so you can see different encounters to choose from. Related encounter, choose it, then select template. Test it out first. Test it a couple of times. See how it gets displayed on here. You're going to be able to change it as much as you need to, as far as that template you just customize in Charm. And then the next thing, click on OK. It populates details from the February 22nd encounter note, also from the patient's chart, into the body of this referral letter.